You're listening to WRHU Radio on 88.7 FM with your host, Gary Duff. This morning, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer and ACDC frontman Brian Johnson joins us to talk about his new book, Rockers and Rollers. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing good, Gary. How's yourself, mate?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Glad.
Now, why did you decide to write a book?
Well, I didn't really decide to do anything. What I did was, I'm a great fan of people who tell stories after dinner, and I like to tell them myself. And a good friend told me, he said, you should write it down, and I'll see what I can do for a man called Tarquin Gotch. And so what I did was I went to do the album Black Ice. It's a very boring time for the singer when the band are setting up, getting the feel of the studio, and it can be up to 10 days before you're actually called into action. So what I did was sat down with a pen and a legal pad and just started writing down little ideas. But the thing is, I could never remember anything. And the only way I could ever remember things was by using motor cars as a reference. So if I talked about, say, me Mini, it brought all these stories back to mind, And so basically, I thought I'd write stories about motor cars and all my friends who'd had troubles and fun things happen. And basically just wrote it down and then scanned it and sent it back to London. And Tarquin sent it to the publishers, and who signed it up, which still shocks and surprises me.
Gotcha.
But it was just an exercise in fun. And I just kept on writing and writing until they said, I think we're fine. And so and basically that's what I did. It's just a fun look back at cars and life on the road, and but as you can tell, there's not a chapter over 4 pages long. I don't think I get bored very easily. And so I think if anybody else is reading it, because when I've read autobiographies in the past that bore the living hell out of me, I just don't like to read them. I'm not interested in what happened when somebody was 16. If he had a bad time or broke his heart. So this was just completely the opposite. It has no rhyme or reason. There's no beginning and no end. It's just all wonderful stories that you can pick up and read anytime. And I just want people to laugh and have a fun time with it.
Now, how did you decide which stories to put in? Was there a process for that?
No, absolutely not. That's a strange thing. I would just come back from the studio, sit down, and think of a car that I'd had. And then remember the stories that had happened around that car. And, in the early formative days when I started in a small rock band, and right up to the days of the cars I bought in ACDC. Obviously, I could afford the little better model of the car, So basically, that was it, and it's just lots of stories. There's some very interesting people in there, I was lucky enough to meet, from Arnold Schwarzenegger. They've got chapters on Malcolm Young and Angus Young and Phil, the drummer, and Cliff, the bass player, and people from other bands, and it's just tour bus stories, which are always fun.
Now, how did you get into cars? Because you are also a racer.
Yes, I enjoy racing cars, yeah.
What was the first time you said, wow, I want to do this, I love cars?
Well, since I was a kid, Gary, it was a terrible sickness I had. My father used to think there was something wrong with us because I could point out a car when I was 6 and tell him the make, where it was from. And in the village we lived in, there wasn't many cars at all. There was probably 3 or 4 cars in the whole village, and they were usually the doctor's or the boss's car. Working men didn't have them then. This was about 1953, and we're still feeling the bite in England after the Second World War. So there wasn't much money there. Even gasoline was still rationed then. My father realized that there was something wrong with us, so he went to a scrapyard and he got a steering wheel off a car and put a stick through it and put it in the end of my bed and put some pillows on it, and he said, right, there you go. And I used to drive for hours. It was, I didn't see the wall, I just saw open roads, and I just kept on going. Of course, by then my father thought I should be in a mental institution. He definitely thought there was something wrong with us, and he wasn't wrong. He wasn't wrong. I was completely nuts, and it never went away. And of course, I think, when I we didn't have any money, and even in my teenage years, I didn't have any money. So it makes you want and desire these cars even more when you know you can't ever afford one. And it's a wonderful, it's a wonderful thing, just lusting after these things. They were just things of beauty,
Now, you had a great story in the book about one of your father's cars called the Wolseley. And
the Wolseley, yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you'd buy the car from anyone who owned it. Have you had any luck finding that car?
Not a peep. I'll buy it tomorrow. Not a peep. It's obviously gone into the crusher sometime, Right about that time when we bought that car, it was used car, obviously. The new designs were coming in. The completely wonderful. Everything was a lot more streamlined. In America, the cars had big fins and red, and that's when rock and roll started. If you figure it out, rock and roll and cars. The sporty cars, the Caddies, the Corvettes, and all, and the Mustangs, and it was, rock and roll. It was fantastic.
Now, you also have a chapter about Pimp My Ride. What is it that you don't like about Pimp My Ride?
How about everything? Just about everything. I mean, when you're younger, you try to make your regular-looking car, make it look like it's sportier. We used to put stripes on the bottom. Not that it would make the car go any faster, but it would look like the car was going faster, And guys in the States would do things to the V8s to make them sound nastier and make them go quicker. This Pimp My Ride thing is just in pure indulgence into bad taste. I mean, these things are horrible. They're just rolling nightmares. And when I see these guys doing them, it just makes me laugh. When they're trying to outdo a BMW designer or a Mercedes designer, or, well, if you look at the aftermarkets, Brabus, AMG, all these fantastic and these guys try to outdo them. I don't think so.
Yeah, the classics, yeah.
Yeah, it's just mental.
You've been in the entertainment business for so long, and you mentioned the story with Arnold Schwarzenegger. What's your opinion of what's going on with him?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, he's when we met him, and he, he was doing the video with us. We were shooting a video for that movie, Last Action Hero, and he came in to join in the video to play a cameo part, and he drove up in his Hummer and got out, and we were all sitting there, and we're going, hey, and I mean, he didn't even look at us. He walked past and never moved, never acknowledged us. Didn't, I think he raised a finger, which must have meant something. And he disappeared straight into his trailer. And as I say, he came out dressed as Angus. I nearly died when I saw him. I just went, Jesus Christ, Angus must have fallen asleep and somebody's left an air hose up his ass because he's 3 times bigger. But it was Arnold.
Were you shocked by the news?
No, I'm never shocked by anything the politicians tell you. You've got to remember, America is a country where some of the people will get fooled by some of these guys all of the time. I mean, you've got to remember, this is only a day after the world was going to end, and he had enough people believing him. I don't get shocked by anything anymore, my son. It's just amazing half of them have been hiding it for so long,
Would you ever write another book?
I don't know. I mean, this was done with just so much fun. I don't know if I ever could, but I'd like to. And if the mood takes us, I certainly will write it down. I guess I'm just waiting to see how this one does and feels, and I mean, I don't want to put anything on the public if they don't like it twice. I'm not going to do that. I'll keep out of the way.
Are you going to do more music too?
I think so, my son. I think you never say never, and we in ACDC never actually say that's it, or we never said, well, we're going to do an album this year, because otherwise we just pressurize ourselves into doing one, and we don't work like that. We just work, in a free and easy going principle of, hey guys, is anybody ready to do something? Yeah, let's get together. And that's basically it. It's not great planning, but it makes us happy.
I'm just wondering, who were some of the people that inspired you when you grew up with music?
Louis Armstrong was a big influence in my life. I thought he was just great. And and then of course you've got the Beatles, which were just unbelievable. I mean, I think they changed everybody's life. But the record I bought first and really got me going was a record by a man called Paul Butterfield and his blues band. And I bought an album called Look Over Yonder Wall. And it changed my life. It was absolutely, I'd never heard anything like it in my life, And that's really what got me started playing. I joined a little blues band, The trouble is, when you're 16, it's very difficult to sing the blues and mean it because you haven't got a clue what you're talking about, really.
Now, are you going to go on tour?
Well, yes. I don't know if we could ever do what we did last time. That was just unbelievable. 2 years, 5 million people. It was just that drained. That was tiring, but fun.
What advice would you give young rockers and rollers who kind of want to do the same thing as you?
Don't go on X Factor. Don't go on it. If you want an instant success like a reality star, off you go. Enjoy yourself. Be prepared for the bump on the way down. Get on the stage with your friends and play to live audiences. Don't start handing in CDs, your first one, because you think it's fabulous. It won't be. I guarantee you. Do it again and again and serve your apprenticeship is basically what I'm telling you. And if you look at all the top bands, that's what they all did. There's maybe one or two exceptions, like a girl singer or maybe a guy singer that have come out of those TV idol X's things. And but they're very, very rare. The guys who work hard, some might not ever make it famous and be really famous, but they'll be good enough to make a good living and do what they love for the rest of their life, And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a musician who isn't world famous, but who's respected. People come to see you, and you make a good living, and everybody has a good time, But it's hard work, And when you're ready with a record that you really do think is good, well, then send it to your record companies, and then get a proper deal. And it's well worth it. And the kids, and there's a million talented guys out there. So I would just suggest get on the stage and play in front of an audience. That gives you more of a thrill than playing in a record studio.
Now, what do you want your audience to take from your book?
Oh, just a good time. Basically, just some little secrets that maybe they didn't think would happen or did happen. To be part of it, and sometimes in reading it, feeling that you're in the chapter yourself and actually seeing it. I'd like them to imagine what it's like. We have done an audio book as well, so they can hear the chapters in audio, which is even funnier. I just want them to be my friend for the time they're reading it, and just say how I live and breathe.
Where can we go to find out more about you and the book?
I'll meet you at the bar in an hour. I'm doing a reading in New Jersey, and I'm really looking forward to that, although I'm a little bit nervous because I've never done it. I've usually got a big band behind me, so it's going to be pretty spooky just doing it by yourself.
Brian Johnson, ACDC frontman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Gary, anytime, me son. And by the way, if I do see you in the bar, buy you a pint. You are. Okay, me son, you have a good one. Thanks, Gary. Bye-bye.